Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dev in the Details. Today, I am so excited to have Ishan on the show with me. Ishan and I met before I actually went to go start Predabase. Over 5 years ago, Ishan was one of the people that taught me about the founder journey and what to expect. He's been a member of early stage startups like Lattice, which was acquired by Apple. He started his own startup after that called Pixie, which was acquired by New Relic. And has started to get on the trend again and is on to his newest company called Rox, where he's co-founder and CEO building revenue agents. Ishan, welcome to the show, Dev in the Details. So excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. It's amazing to see you thriving, and amazing to see this podcast thriving. So excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's. I think our viewership's going to go skyrocket after
hopefully
this.
I don't disappoint you. But yeah,
Ishan, about 5 seconds ago before the show, I was asking you, how do you define Rox? And you said, hey, we build revenue agents. I've heard of coding agents. I've heard of legal agents. I've even heard of SOC and security agents. What exactly is a revenue agent? How do you define that for people?
It's a great point. The market for revenue agents, or you may call it CRM or sales agents, is now starting to kind of really break through. But the concept is very similar to what happened with coding, where you had initially these AI systems or agents, which are copilots helping developers, and is switched to being Autopilot cloud agents, which can autonomously do end-to-end kind of coding tasks. Then support agents happened, where you had kind of customer support agents that could triage and then resolve tickets. Now, revenue agents is something that we pioneered in the market. They can do what a human would do with a CRM before, which is process the lead to close of managing customers. So today, our revenue agents can research a customer, reach out to them, manage the contract. Once the customer is actually onboarded, it handles renewals, upsells. And we kind of had that inflection point moving from Copilot to Autopilot about maybe 3 months back. And now we're automating kind of hundreds of millions of dollars of kind of revenue systems, everybody from MongoDB to Intel to all the way to kind of big financial institutions are using us to essentially automate their kind of commercial organization.
It's actually counter to a narrative that I feel like I hear often.
Yeah.
If people describe what types of agents they think are going to be the most, or domains agents are going to operate well in, they're often closed systems where the risk of making a mistake is not that high and the outputs are verifiable and it follows some syntax. These are all reasons coding agents, I think, are defined as it's doing well. Revenue and sales feels like the type of space that people would have said, we're going to have humans here forever, right? I saw a tweet that said something like, AI is going to dominate everything, but you're still going to have your 50-something-year-old enterprise sales rep buying your your vendor a steak or something along those lines.
Yeah.
How did you pick revenue? Because it seems like one of the harder spaces. It's something that people often want interpersonal interaction with, or at least people claim to. There's if you thought about an engineer, they're doing very deterministic work and building a product. If you thought about a salesperson, it's a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's several parts to the question. Why did we choose it? Is it hard? How do you go about kind of addressing the hard things? Maybe I'd select the second one. It is freaking hard. You need Rhino skin to go after what is called an unverifiable domain, right? So finance, accounting, sales, customer relationships, essentially non-closed loop unverifiable domains where we're looking to build agents that can do kind of long horizon agentic tasks. And it's not as trivial as kind of a closed loop coding system or even a kind of customer support use case.
Yeah.
So it is insanely hard. We've been at it for about 2 years, and now we're kind of really thriving. But we had a few kind of marquee moments that we had to really innovate around. So maybe we kind of, before diving into what they are, why did we end up doing it? So kind of your example is kind of pretty good, where I got acquired in New Relic. I ended up being kind of the chief growth officer. So I was responsible for product-led growth, marketing, a lot of the customer base, and I was the kind of the CMO counterpart to the CRO. So I kind of oversaw about $1 billion of consumption in a public company that we ultimately took private. There, I kind of saw the trend where once AI and kind of agents happened on the commercial side of the company, there is going to be this barbell distribution of productivity. You will have that kind of 55-year-old domain expert, steak dinner master. Those people will get dramatically more productive. For them, productivity would be they could handle 2 to 3 times more customers.
Yeah.
So they are still essential, but they would get a lot more productive because their book size would increase.
Yeah.
Then on the other side of the barbell, there's going to be jobs and functions which are mission critical that would either get fully automated or would get essentially leverage. So what does that mean? So for every person who's having a steak dinner, there's usually 4 to 6 people who are supporting them. These are BDRs who do prospecting. These are SEs who are doing a lot of the technical part, deal desk people, renewal people, RevOps people, sales analyst people. Kind of when you look at the overall OpEx profile for a public company or mature business, 40% of it is sales and marketing. And within that, there's an extreme power law. Only about 10 to 15% are those people who are quota carrying and actually going and kind of hunting down deals. The remaining are supporting them. I think with AI and agents, like the way it impacts on broader institutions, very different. Like coding's different, support's different. In our domain, which is 40% of where most of kind of OpEx spend goes, what we are seeing, and we're trying to be a good partner, is like how do we help businesses kind of transform as this kind of barbell distribution of productivity pans out. So initially we build all of it as a copilot to supercharge your kind of future-proof kind of quota carrying employees. And then reskilling the rest. So we do one-to-one kind of in the field retraining everybody to become AI native. And as we're doing that, like the automation and the leverage of these kind of non-quota carrying functions is playing out much faster than you all might think.
So the opportunity you saw was that if you have an organization, 40 to 50% that might be sales and marketing, 10% of them are like carrying the bag, quota carrying.
Correct.
And that you have an opportunity to be able to supercharge those by taking that support function and really starting to augment that. But now the shift from that Copilot model is like maybe some of even the quota carrying capacity
100%.
can actually be automated. I want to double click on, why this is hard and what you learned from it. But before I do that, I want to go back to like, why is this a problem worth solving? Because you talked about this in the macro setting, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of let's call it, there's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah.
But one of the best pieces of advice I got on founding a company, I told you about this previously, is when I was starting Predabase, Ishan actually gave me kind of general founder advice. And what he said was, think about the pain that you're going to articulate for a user or for a customer, and then ask them, is this a pain at least an 8 out of 10 or higher on the scale? If it's not an 8 out of 10 or higher, just move on. Move on from the customer. And if you can't find enough like that, move on from the idea. Right. And I'll be totally honest, when I first heard that, I kind of thought it was similar to a lot of VC advice of like, make sure you hire A players. It's like, yeah, of course, like I'm not going to try and hire a C player. Of course, I'm not going to try and like find a thing that's not a real pain. One thing I found, though, is that it's very easy to look at like a macro distribution of a challenge and be like, this should be something that, exists in the market, exists in the world. But then you end up potentially providing a vitamin. You end up potentially not actually having an urgent pain that people necessarily face. At Rox, what was that 9 or 10 out of 10 pain that you felt from customers? Who was feeling it? How did they articulate it, and why did that give you the conviction this is the right way to go?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It kind of speaks to kind of the founder DNA and mindset. Like, I am somebody who only very single-threaded. Like, I actually work on one project, go super deep, take kind of psychotic extreme ownership and try to solve it. So like almost all the insights that led to starting Rox, validating it, now kind of the relative success of it, came from my days trying to run New Relic. So when we were building Pixie, I'm pretty technical, we were building kind of the observability system for Kubernetes. It was wildly successful. We ended up getting into an acquisition dogfight. New Relic acquires that. I got acquired to be in product, to kind of build out kind of their open source product module.
Yeah.
But interestingly, being founders, I got kind of pulled into this massive go-to-market transition of a public company where they had about $800 million of subscription revenue that they wanted to convert to $1 billion in consumption while being public. And I, with Manav and Bill, who were the CPO and the CEO at that point, kind of with their partnership, I was responsible to help the transition, manage all the net new logo acquisition, and over time, a lot of the high velocity sales segments. So I literally held a number and my life depended on it.
How did that happen to you? Because you went from building a Kubernetes observability product, being pretty technical on like core engineering, Sean was at MIT, into now carrying a number for essentially like a revenue transformation of a public company going private.
Correct.
Just like, what's the actual guts of that working post-acquisition? Because I've heard a lot of different stories of post-acquisition founders.
Yeah.
Not many go that direction.
Yeah. I think ultimately it is about having the skin in the game, and then I like to gamble, and like a massive part of my personal net worth was in New Relic equity. I don't usually give up. So I was there for a minimum of 3 years, and it was an amazing opportunity to be in the public markets when it was chaos. It was COVID. Like the upside of COVID, we went from a $2 billion market cap to 12, and then Elon buys X. And then the world kind of thinks about efficiency differently in the public markets that we can go down into. It, for me, is an amazing opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And then amidst that chaos, because I had so much skin in the game, like the only option was
we got to make it work.
Just go super deep, help transform the company, and ultimately win. We do this stuff to like kind of the opportunity to have big wins, and that's why like when I was running product, like the product was really really good. New Relic had actually invented the space, like kind of in some way created the category. Obviously, Datadog became dominant. The most of the alpha was on going back to the developer, kind of building a developer first kind of go to market motion, and then moving into consumption. So that's how I got organically pulled in. I had good kind of support from the CEO and the board. And yeah, like, and then once you're in there, nobody cares if you're an engineer or salesperson. You're there to make the business work.
Define New Relic for folks that may not be as familiar with it, and then walk us back through your time when you were at Pixie and you're deciding whether or not to go through that acquisition route, or things were clearly successful. I knew some of your early customers as well. They're big logos.
Massive logos.
How did you decide that you want to first, what the heck is New Relic for a lot of folks that might be wondering? And then B, how did you decide that I wanted to go down the acquisition route rather than maybe building that out?
Absolutely. So similar to Rubrik, like New Relic is a kind of a software, kind of in some way like an infrastructure company. They play in the monitoring or observability market. That is the software systems that help kind of large businesses like Hulu to Netflix to Fox to any kind of startup monitor and observe their software products. That market is an extremely mature market, just like security, where there were 5 public companies operating at one time. In public, it was like New Relic, Datadog, Splunk, AppD, Dynatrace, Elastic, extremely large, extremely competitive market. So when they acquired us, New Relic was trying to stay kind of public, kind of in their third foray, and that's what they do. In terms of going back to Pixie and why selling, I think that's a pretty amazing question. I'm not sure if I've talked about it. Enough time has passed where Zen, my co-founder, he's successful. We're very good friends. We're doing good. And then our third partner was Dev Rishi at Benchmark, who had a huge success recently with Cerebras. So kind of the core idea was at that point in cloud, most of the workloads were moving to Kubernetes. And then when there is a platform shift, and speak about the shifts at Rox, there is a once in a generation opportunity to define the next decade of kind of that technologies market. And we ended up building something that leveraged this thing called eBPF that we were pretty early on, that made observability dead simple, essentially frictionless for anything running on Kubernetes. So we started off with a really strong thesis. We incubated it outside of Benchmark, actually, in Benchmark. And that was about 2017. So 2018, we officially started, and the acquisition happened around a planned Series B timeframe in 2022. So why did we sell? I think it was an interesting time because...
Lightning fast, by the way.
Lightning fast, yeah. I would say 2 years as a company, and then Zen and I, kind of with Eric's help, kind of incubate, like worked on it for probably like maybe 3 quarters before that. Just thinking about it, and I think we were going to Series B. It was great momentum. During COVID, we moved from a pure sales-led motion, and we were forced to do kind of developer kind of bottom-up motion because you couldn't get on planes, right? So we really opened up this community, and the community really like resonated with what we're doing. And then kind of leading up to that acquisition, I think all these companies, not naming which ones outside of New Relic, most of them ended up becoming the ecosystem partners. They really wanted to kind of partner with us because we had shared big customers. As we were going through it, I think the acquisition kind of transpires. I think the way the founders decide to sell is more of a art kind of like than a science. It ended up kind of becoming 3 things, which is with New Relic. First off, like they offered to open source all of Pixie. That allowed our technology to be part of core Kubernetes, which is like literally most software in the world. Second, they gave both Zen and myself a lot of freedom to go basically run product and engineering. I think as founders and builders, whenever you're kind of in some way giving your baby away, you want to see the full kind of potential. And then third, I think financially, it made a lot of sense. We did take the gamble of like taking a lot of the acquisition as equity, and that eventually kind of drove me to be so involved in the post-acquisition world.
It's an amazing story. And I feel like not that many people have had that repeatable experience that you have had, which is like you saw first an acquisition through someone we both know well, Chris Ray. And I think Lattice and the company you were involved with there at Apple, Pixie to New Relic, and now, of course, onto the third company. So coming back towards it, I feel like through those experiences, you learned viscerally the pain, right?
Yeah.
You got to solve for something that you knew firsthand.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like very exciting because you understand the user more than anyone else. It's an unverifiable domain, as you kind of described.
Correct.
What have you learned about building for agentic solutions in unverifiable domains in terms of what the challenges are and like how to be able to get around those? Like, what are some things that were not obvious when you started that you now know?
Yeah, I think in hindsight, it ended up being lucky for us. Maybe like let's go back to like why started Rox. So while I was running kind of most of kind of New Relic kind of growth or go-to-market engine, I held a number and I failed. We lost the company. We had to sell to private equity. So it was a honeymoon journey on the upside of COVID. The downside, we weren't able to return the growth that the public markets were looking for. And we ultimately went through a pretty amazing kind of $6.5 billion like kind of exit. But kind of coming out of that, as somebody who was in the guts of the system, responsible for the number, I deeply understood that.
How did that feel, by the way? Because you've just come from selling your startup, right, which was doing super well, to now Ishan's the man. The board is like trusting you. It's like you've got a number, whether that number is fair, achievable, et cetera. It's like that's your number.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't kind of go through.
Yeah, I think if you go into the cycle, a lot of people ask me, I think like Bipul's amazing. Like ultimately, like as founders, when you're in it, you're trying to operate kind of your life and your company in a first principles manner, and you're trying to win, whether that's a $10 million startup to 100 million or a billion. These numbers start to kind of get invisible. The game is to really kind of execute your craft and learn and operate a business. So how does it feel like when I'm operating something, I'm pretty much in like flow state. I really don't think about it much.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it once we exited, right?
Yeah.
Like once you're in it, like you're doing earnings and you're kind of trying to hit a number. When we did exit, ultimately you're disappointed. Like I was crushed. I think nobody wants to lose, but I'm an extremely sore loser. Like you just learn that. So you're coming out of the experience, I felt like, hey, we were amazing people. It was great. We had an insane goal to take New Relic and kind of back to his growth days. We were pretty successful, but ultimately we lost. And we lost because I do think kind of shit rolls from the top. I think ultimately it was the leaders for us. Like we could have done a better job. Second, we didn't help our teams kind of transform as we moved from the business model from subscription to consumption. And the third is the underlying software systems, specifically Salesforce, to power like a public company where inadequate is best and at the limit where counterproductive. Like as we're moving the business model and then efficiency was happening, we had to riff folks and AI was happening.
Yeah.
All they did is like ask for more money. Right. So we had to build parallel systems to go run the business. So coming out of that, I felt like, okay, I think leadership is, we got to do a better job. Second, there needs to be a better partner to like help businesses kind of transform. Like everything is going to change. And third is that we felt like there was these two secular waves that we can speak to, like to go build the next Salesforce.
Totally.
That's where it came from. But ultimately, like the itch was, I promised to myself and my family and your teams, and you take it personally that, hey, we're going to take this company and win again. And when you end up losing, and it takes a while to get over it. I'm still not over it, honestly.
You only lose, I think, when you're done quitting. And I feel like what you did was you just took that same ambition towards the next company. So we're coming back to like I think what makes this very challenging is a lot task, and like specifically what you've learned in terms of the unverifiable domains.
I think the way to think about I think let's go into technical details a bit. I think it'll be helpful. So just kind of imagine yourself like, let's say you're like, as you grow to New Relic, goes through an acquisition. The core two insights for me was, okay, my largest software system, the CRM, doesn't have any users. Nobody's using it. Everybody uses a Tableau or something else to actually run the business. And then the underlying data is no longer in the Salesforce, it's in the data warehouse. So I was like, that's interesting. My largest software system has no users and no data. So I came out of that like, hey, this is kind of odd. Then I started to kind of talk to other people and turned on 90% of like the people that we talked to in B2B software, including Rubrik and Nutanix, all these companies had the same idea, right? Most of your employees were using applications which are not Salesforce, and the data was actually in the warehouse. So why is that important? So we started the business not wanting to make an agent company. We started the business to build the next software system to run revenue. And it was based on these two underlying trends that first, the application system is going to go from point and click UI to something to AI, but this is mid 2023, right? But it will be something agentic, but very fuzzy.
Yeah.
But the underlying data system is not going to be Salesforce. It is going to be the data warehouse. So the core insight was we're going to build a warehouse native agent company, and we will be very opinionated about the back end, but be very iterative on the front end. So that was the principles that which we kind of went in. Thankfully, 2 years in, context graphs are a thing, and agents became a thing, and that obviously pulled it in. So then we entered the space in some way being naive, not knowing how hard the agents part would be to build in the space. But for us, we always are working on the context problem. So this is where it gets to. So when it's a non-verifiable domain, it is extremely non-trivial to go solve that problem. The only way to solve that problem is by really earning the right to manage the underlying kind of data system, and not sitting on top of other kind of context systems like a CRM or like a data warehouse. So we have built essentially a warehouse native knowledge graph, which is now called a context graph. And we've been working on it for about 2 years, right? So why does that help? So once you actually create this knowledge graph that powers the agents, you can start to do interesting things like decompose the agentic task to subtasks which are end-to-end. Like, for example, processing an inbound kind of sign-up request. That is actually an automated end-to-end loop. Sending out an email and the end stop being, did they respond or not? That is an automated loop. And doing a renewal, that's an automated. So we've taken the problem, decomposed it into subtasks, and started to collect traces and kind of for these verifiable tasks. And that's kind of where our Autopilot really thrives. So if you use go-to-rox.com, try it. That's the only agentic kind of system that's available. You can do inbound, outbound renewals automated. But as the mid part where it's kind of deal execution, that is still Copilot. So that's how I did it. Net of it, it's make it a game of context.
Yeah.
And really, really do a good job. Design a knowledge graph where you can preserve traces where you can. And on the agent side, decompose the agent from trying to build like a God mode agent that does everything for a function to sub-agents, and try to prioritize sub-agents where you decompose it to a point where you can basically have kind of end-to-end systems.
What's been the hardest part in the actual shift as this went from, let's say, like we're building the context graphs and we're building like, something that we knew would be AI powered on top of this underlying data warehouse.
Yeah.
To now saying like, all right, we're building like agentic workflows that are closed loop. Is it like, I hear people ask about agent evaluation. Like what's hard is to know whether or not it's doing the right thing. I hear people ask about like agent guardrails. Like how do I make sure it doesn't accidentally delete some of the things that it shouldn't have or others? What are the types of challenges that you felt like were, the ones that kept you up at night as you were thinking about, especially that shift from Copilot to Autopilot?
Yeah.
And you're going to have the system run autonomously.
Yeah. So for us, we are 2 years old. We GA back in October, so about 2 quarters out in GA. Our agent system has gone in 3 phases.
What does GA mean for a startup, by the way?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I thought that GA was just like, we're ready to go.
That's a great question. Yeah. GA is when you can sign multi-year kind of contracts with the Fortune 500 or the Global 2000.
Okay.
And before that, our product was out and useful, but at best you can get a beta agreement and an eval agreement.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of sugar high revenue, but it's not really material enterprise contract. So because our kind of core ICP is the Global 2000, after like with GA, the product was to a point, the security, the support systems where a business could actually like a company like a Philips, for example, can do multi-year engagements with us.
Got it.
And also we didn't have we were all engineers before that. So now we have a sales team, a marketing team, and a support team. So kind of going through the agent system 3 stages. So first off, we said, because we were so opinionated about building the context graph, we come from the knowledge graph space. So we kind of know that space code. Initially, we built a God mode agent, like one agent that does everything. Until for this customer, that just did not work because agents were not there. Long horizon kind of tasks were not there, and also we didn't really have the context system powering it. So what we did is we actually learned from Scott and Cognition, where we took our kind of high level understanding and kind of decomposed it down to like subtasks. And our subtasks in some way follow like a CRM kind of process. So research, outbound, meetings, opportunity updates, renewals. And that's kind of the way we've sequenced it. Now, if you go to Rox.com today, some of these modules are autopilot, some are like copilot. And what has been the hardest part? First is somewhat fuzzy, is actually knowing which modules to build when. And it is kind of more of a product management, or for a founder, it's kind of discovery question. Because of our approach, we could not be in stealth. So we had to start working with customers day zero. We did a seed on Valentine's Day of 24. We were meeting with Palo Alto the next day. It's just like, because the front end is iterative, we have to work with customers.
Yeah.
So like we made a lot of mistakes kind of going on and building kind of sub-agent modules, which there was no path to automation, and there's kind of no path to kind of making kind of money in our kind of context. That's number one. Number two is, for the parts where you can kind of automate today, is just getting enough data. Let's take an outbound agent. That's something that is like really kind of working for us. You can use Rox to basically set up a bunch of agents that can go reach out to your customers, kind of have a conversation to them. First off, we actually needed all the contact information in the world, all the company information in the world, and then start collecting traces for what kind of messaging works for which kind of demographic.
That sounds intractable. All the contact information in the world.
So we had to, it's kind of a coach out problem, right? So we had to get enough traction on the Copilot mode for humans to actually go send enough emails to start collecting that data.
And what does Copilot look like? It means like an agent's generating an email that then the human just responds and reviews and
exactly.
says yes.
So like, I think if it's kind of, if the agent generates a sequence, it would say like, hey, I want to reach out to the founders of the top AI startups in New York. It will go find like 50 to 100 of the top founders. It'll find the people, generate like personalized kind of sequence or series of content, and the human will review it and say, this looks good, send it. And then if they respond, you can maybe edit it if you want to, but it's not fully autopilot. It's not like fully going with auto reply. So initially, the Copilot was literally every step the human was in the loop.
Yeah.
And then we collect enough data and domain expertise to now can at least expose an autopilot. I would say about January, our biggest customers started to switch to autopilot. Like in mine, I'm the founder, kind of co-founder CEO. I trust autopilot more than I trust myself. It's like, is that good? Is that good? Like for scale outreach and kind of reaching out. And it happened because we had enough context in the graph. We had enough kind of traces for these submodules, and it got really good.
Did you notice for building revenue agents the same kind of shift that I think a lot of people notice for coding agents between, let's say, November 2025 and January 2026? Like Opus came out, we saw like the next generation, I think like 5.2 and others came, and it felt like these models suddenly had a step function change in their ability to execute long horizon tasks. And I think that this most obviously came out with coding agents, because now you could give it a task and it's like, it's not just generating code and like rewriting, but it's doing it better than I could. I spoke with Tom from Vercel recently, and I think he was saying he's been building an engineer in the Valley for decades. And the system came up with better code than he could write, for a system. Like he was one of the co-creators for React, and he's like, it's better front-end code than I would have thought about.
Yeah.
Like, did you notice this flip a switch? Was it, basically what I think I'm asking is like, was it the underlying model capabilities that you think made the step function change? Or was it a breakthrough in the context you were feeding to the systems or the harness?
I think it's a combination of both, but by far the underlying models. I think November, December, it just changed. Like this may be like provocative thing. I think it's just game over. Like in our domain, if you look at kind of like every business from a mom and pop store to Fortune 1, majority of the employees in those companies are knowledge workers who are working with customers, whether that's pre-sales, post-sales, support, marketing, product function. When you're kind of doing that, a lot of it's human-to-human connection, but a lot of the knowledge work is producing content.
Right.
Slide decks, emails, white papers, kind of strategy documentation. The models got to a point where if you can encode all of the traces, like domain kind of interaction and traces with all the context, it will produce better content. And I am decent, I would say. It produces better content than me. I think that was obviously we moved, like we do 7 trillion tokens a quarter. We're one of those token maxi apps. So we've seen this kind of whole journey, but that was a huge part. In our domain, like the revenue agent space is about 2 years behind coding agents. So coding agent space started with Copilot, and then obviously kind of Cursor, and then Cognition and Windsurf. Then we had support agents. Like we are kind of breaking through now. For us in our domain, like the alpha that we had is we had the context graph. And we had all this context ratio. A very simple task is a founder CEO of a hot kind of AI company, they would use Rox over Claude because in one shot, it'll create like a pitch deck that is fully aware of their business with all the context, all the emails, everything in one place. But that would take them maybe 18 hours at a Mac Mini on a weekend to just hook up, but still managing the context would be hard.
And 7 trillion tokens processed every quarter. Massive number. How do you think about, like, as one of the things with AI native startups, oftentimes people ask about is like, how do you think about unit economics and margins?
Yeah.
Because this is, oftentimes margin profiles look different than your conventional SaaS company growing like 80%.
It's closer to a hardware business than it is to a software business.
Yeah.
And like we are not even AI, we're an agent company. And we started to build agents late 23. And so we had to figure out a lot of stuff. By the way, before Lattice, obviously, I was an early engineer at Amazon Robotics, and so I came from like hardware. So I've kind of seen these businesses operate. So it is closer to hardware in the following sense: especially with founders, it's very cool to get a demo up.
Yeah.
And then it is very cool to think about kind of ripping hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue on an agent app. But it's the reality. If an agent company, you do have to have kind of superhuman top line profiles where you have to go make a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, you have to really manage your COGS. And for us, that up until like October, when we were beta, we were like, in some way, only engineers were like, just use OpenAI and just go for it. We compete with Agentforce or Salesforce. Our alpha is kind of time to value. We got to ship. So we just use OpenAI. Then we went to GA the first quarter, November to Jan. We say, hey, this is unsustainable. Like
from a cost basis.
From cost basis, revenue is great.
Yeah,
but it is
so were the COGS.
Yeah. So up until that point, we said, okay, like let's not focus on COGS. Let's just be super lean. Let's only hire like outlier engineering talent. Let's not be super big and just manage the token spend as like essentially a small team.
Mm-hmm.
It's a material cost. So the one that happened when we GA, we have to hire a sales and marketing team. So for me, I have engineers, I have a sales marketing, and I have my bucket of tokens.
Yes.
So what we did in February to March is, I remember I went to India, Sriram, like we just like spent 2.5 weeks literally offloading most of our frontier tokens to open source tokens.
Oh, wow.
So about 20 to 30% remain frontier, the remaining are like open source. And we kind of build a lot of internal IP to, nothing really works at our scale. So we had to build a lot of like routing logic at the sub-agent level. So now we, along with trying to figure out how to achieve this crazy kind of revenue expectations, which we're thankfully achieving, is like just manage COGS to a very, very minute level. So in our company, even though we're doing 7 kind of trillion tokens a quarter, we track kind of dollar per action, which is our unit of like work. We at any real-time basis, we know where we call it DOPA, where DOPA is moving. And just through the sheer visibility, we've taken our kind of COGS profile by down an order of magnitude.
Wow.
And obviously we have to keep it trading there. And then at some point we have to offload that to our own GPU clusters. And that's kind of the continuum we're on.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that I feel like has been competing. The first is that the cost of inference in general has been reducing, like probably by about an order of magnitude every year.
Yeah.
The second, though, is that the consumption on inference has been increasing more than an order of magnitude every year. And so you kind of have these like opposing forces, but the demand is actually greater than like the supply expansion overall.
Yeah, maybe like a nuanced thing that your audience will appreciate is at the macro level, I do attest to kind of I call him Papa Jensen's view. I think inference as a market will become not 1,000x, 1,000,000x over time. I truly believe that. I think literally we are like, I think for us, like the LLM is our computer. Like everything is kind of inference based.
Yeah.
But and the price for tokens will go down, but different players in the market have to play the price, have to manage the price quality curve differently. For example, we compete with Salesforce, amazing company, Mark Benioff's the GOAT, but they rationally cannot roll out the latest models to all their customers. It's just kind of cost prohibitive. We, on the other hand, that is our duty. We are the kind of the newcomer, the number one newcomer who has to drive net new innovation. Like if Opus can produce slide decks, like our agents should be able to produce better slide decks tomorrow.
Yeah.
right? That's what the customer expectation is. So for us, we do have to keep a healthy balance of like bring the frontier like the best possible, and then the stuff that is kind of in some way feature market fit go down the cost curve. So like every founder has to kind of, and it is not a game for everybody. That's where product strategy, capital strategy, how you operate kind of comes through, and it's a lot more nuanced than you might think.
How do you measure quality? You mentioned like quality of the actions. DOPA was a metric that I think said, which related towards the cost of an action.
Yeah.
But if I thought about like the ROI on one of these, like let's say the switch from Copilot to Autopilot, what do your customers see and how do you measure that, quantify?
Yeah, I think there's two, like ROI and then kind of quality are related but somewhat different things in our domain.
Yeah.
So because we build a revenue agent with like sub-agents, each sub-agent has their eval sets, it has their guardrails. So we have to like, let's take the sub-agent that's reading the news that has kind of its own eval set, and we're obviously kind of periodically kind of measuring to our kind of eval systems. The customer doesn't really see that. What the customer buys or actions for is to get business work done. So we are a function of how many net new customers did you help me acquire, how many customers are engaging, how much renewals are you automating. So we're very much tied to the business outcome.
Is that how you price as well? Like it's on these, because I feel like pricing for AI and agentic services has become this whole nother like open question.
Yeah, I think again,
I can tell from your reaction that you're like, is this how we price? We need to figure out.
I think the theme for this show would be like, what is the reality between the micro and the micro? Because if I'm kind of smiling because if you go to X or LinkedIn, it's all about outcome-based pricing.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Brett and Sierra, and they all do a great job, kind of in some way, kind of talking about that. I think there's paths to get there at some point, definitely in our domain, because we accelerate revenue.
Right.
So if the customer grows, they're growing because they're buying more Rox actions, and so that's kind of a pretty good kind of win-win dynamic there. Having said that, in our domain, at least till now, like we can't do that completely programmatically. So what we do is we will sell them on business outcomes, and that's what we build the ROI case for. The buyer would use that ROI case to go buy a volume of actions. So the actions are in some way the outputs, the outcomes of the business. There's still a gap.
Yeah.
And is there a point where people are going to put, okay, I need $1 million of revenue out, I'm going to put in 100K in Rox? We sure hope so. I think we're getting there with outbound agents for like SMB customers, but we're not there yet. Maybe like end of this year.
What does Ishan, the co-founder CEO for Rox, now do differently that Ishan, who is the co-founder for Pixie or an early employee at Lattice?
Yeah.
What is the benefit that the second, third time founder has that you've seen materially in your journey now?
Yeah.
Because I gotta say, like after building the startup for a while, I was like, wow, there are so many things I would do differently next time.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the reality on the ground is. Like what basically stays hard and what actually is a lot easier the second time around?
I'm definitely a battle-hardened operator because it's my second time founding a fifth early-stage company, gone through like 3 acquisitions before, one failure. So like lots of ups and downs in my journey. So I'm definitely like battle-hardened, or what some may say I have Rhino skin. But this is by far the most intense, the most the most interesting time ever. Like and I would say what changes, like everything, honestly. I think as an operator, as a founder, you are in some way have that Kobe mindset to like kind of continue to perfect your craft and pursue perfection that you never kind of attain, and you're kind of trying to achieve highs. The difference now is the way you operate has changed. And I'll talk about kind of across product and kind of go to market. But more so, I have no monthly plans.
Yeah.
Actually, there is no quarterly plans. We have extremely ambitious, very ambitious, like long-term plans. We want to build for revenue what Ramp is doing for finance, what Stripe did for payments. We want to build the AI infrastructure to run the world's revenue, and it's obviously super exciting for us, and it kind of attracts talent. But there's no point in having quarterly plans anymore, or even monthly plans. So we run the whole business on a weekly cadence.
When you say the whole business, you mean like product engineering, marketing, sales is running on a weekly.
Everything.
What does that mean for sales to run on a weekly cadence?
So because I came out of Apple, I always had like a Sunday night quick staff call with my team. Hey, here's how the week's going to happen.
Apple did that? Oh,
yeah, because in Apple, like most of the leadership would dog food the products on Sunday morning, and they would do quick calls on Sunday evenings or Sunday. That has become, we do our team kind of staff meeting, which is optional, by the way, like Rubrik, but everybody joins Sunday morning. So by Sunday morning, we kind of do a look back of the week, call out wins, call out like learnings. We have the plans in set, and then through Sunday, as people spend time with family, have kids, and whatever, people are mentally just getting their week lined up. Then kind of Monday to Friday, everybody's like cranking, like ship code, ship revenue, ship code, ship revenue. And then Friday to Saturday, like I try to take some time off with my kids, but I'm kind of decompressing, processing, and then Sunday morning you're back at it.
Yeah.
Because every time we try to move off of that, either on the product land, something changed and we were not on top of it. We missed something. On the go-to-market side, maybe in the pre-sales world, like the pitch wasn't resonating. Like our MCP requirements changed, and like that is what has changed. So, which means experienced people like ourselves have to break most of our muscles and build new ones. And then for early career folks, which is about 70% of our team, they crank all the time, but they have to kind of grow up and take on a lot of ownership.
Yeah.
Like they eventually become, I think that's the biggest thing. The pace, relentless kind of cadence is insane. But once you're in the arena, like I keep saying, is to the pain point, like 9 out of 10 days are supposed to be bad. Like if they're not bad, you're not pushing hard enough. But the one good day is when you sleep. But the 10 days are like worth it. It's exhilarating. I would rather be in the arena in this time versus kind of being on the outside.
And tell me a little bit about, like, I think one of the things is that AI has shifted the way that the types of products and services we can build. You couldn't build Rox 10 years ago.
Absolutely not.
But it's also shifted the way that you build those same products and services. Right. When I think about like an AI native startup like Rox, the way that I imagine things are built are very different than if I thought about any conventional enterprise, right? Like you talked about 1 week plans. Walk me through a little bit about like what workflows to on product and engineering, on marketing, on sales, you've seen AI actually supercharge on the team internally. I have a silly example internally, but like AI note-taking, I think we gave this example previously, like AI note-taking is obviously like a game changer for sales conversations, and that's table stakes. But with AI note-taking connected towards Claude Code or Claude Cowork allows you to do is like have a way to be able to summarize all your objections, objection handle, create, customer-specific pitches and assets towards each of those. That's a small example. I think the second one that we think about is like most of our best engineers, I feel like, spend very little time writing code now. I imagine it's similar too, but like tell me a bit about like what it looks like from a process and maybe like tooling standpoint internally at an AI native company.
Yeah, so we have on the go-to-market side, we have no other tool outside of Rox, and obviously like OpenAI and Claude. We have no other software. Obviously, that's
wait. So no other software means like no Salesforce, no HubSpot, no
nothing. No.
Wow.
It's just agents. Yeah. And then on the go-to-market,
what about call notes and transcripts?
No, our agents transcribe. And,
Rox does that. Okay.
We still use Zoom. Yeah, I think like obviously like we have to run our business on Rox, like to convince like the world's most biggest businesses to run on Rox. I think when you run an entire business on agents, you're starting off with a baseline kind of productivity, which is the barbell. It is extremely lean teams where every employee has to be an outlier talent. Any new, because you're kind of deploying, investing in people and tokens. The tokens have to do a lot of the things to supercharge them and automate everything else. So on the go-to-market side, everything runs on Rox. Again, like we're biased, and a lot of our customers are getting there as well. On the EPD side, engineering product design, Cursor's huge. We've been an early customer of Devin for a long time. But I have to say, like, what is the non-intuitive and provocative things? The alpha, still the best bet to make is to attract and retain outlier engineering talent.
Yeah.
It's obviously not about a quantity game anymore, like literally the best talent. I think the alpha for non-outlier talent has gone away because of this. So like my approach is, if you look at what we're building, there's the heavy systems part of building the context graph and the agent foundations, like the agent orchestration piece. And then there's a product engineering, kind of product and design engineering of building the UI. When we look at a kind of platform and agent foundations, yes, we use Claude and Cursor a fair bit. If you really go on, it's a very small team. The principal for Rippling is with us, and GoPals and Foundations. They still have to design and kind of write a lot of the core primitives.
Yeah.
And yes, they're using kind of and coding agents to explore more, iterate more, but not everything is vibe coded.
Yeah.
Again, like it is shifting. I know people are writing kernels with Craig Rockman kernels, but like for us, there's a lot of thought that goes in. On the front end, I think it's all merged. We have no PMs. Like I think we're similar where I am producty enough where we've set a culture where our field team, they are kind of our outbound PMs, and our product owners are the engineers. So everybody has to have product sense.
Yeah.
Inserting a net new dedicated PM function has slowed us down. So we've kind of have no PM. So Yuma and Dan, these are actually engineers. They have product, design, and engineering. So your front-end engineering, your designer, your PMs, all in kind of one pod.
Yeah.
And those folks use like Cursor a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So they use Cursor, they use Framer, like all these kind of systems.
Yeah.
And there's iterating faster. So what has changed at a very high level? I think the way you actually design the company is completely different for me.
Yeah. Totally.
And like just the number of people, the number of team, it's fewer people, but the bar to hire the next person is extremely high.
So tell me about how you find that person, because I will say right now that talent has probably the most kind of embarrassment of riches in terms of opportunities they can go for.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling this in 2021 too, when we started Predabase in 2021. Like it was one of the frothiest VC markets, right? Everyone was raising tons of money, throwing it out, and every VC's advice is like, "I've got a good one for you.
Yeah,
hire A players, right?" And it's oh great, like like I was gonna go hire someone C player. What's like the practical advice on how to do that? And I'll share one that Chris gave me that I actually liked a lot. We were thinking about like what's the level of seniority to go for, right, in terms of talent. And I remember Chris was like, and Professor Chris Ray is a professor at Stanford. We both know him well. He's like, I've never regretted hiring that young, hungry kid out of Stanford. And so basically his like take was like, look, you can arbitrage by going earlier in career. What's like a reasonable
that's a great
practical
question.
advice?
I'll give you the summary, and then please check on this like the next time we chat. The summary, if you had a snapshot right now, I look for three things. I look for A+ talent, but the important vector is they want to work with A++ talent, and they want to attract A++ talent.
Yeah.
So it's like when I'm looking for somebody, they definitely have to they have to be outlier. They need to have demonstrated some outlier performance, whether it's an IOI gold medalist or a crazy hackathon or something where they have pursued like really being amazing. But then I have to think through, do they have a growth mindset where they want to work with better people to the point where they're going to attract better people than them? That's very important, because I'll get the talent flywheel right now is mostly referral based. Like a recruiter can't really go out and convince an A+ person like at scale.
Right.
So that's my number one thing is, are they A+? Do they look at our career page and say, hey, I'm going to get challenged here. I'm going to work here. And then I'm going to go hire my friend who's better than me.
Yeah.
Second thing I look for is we look for deeply self-driven people who are self-motivated, because I operate in a pretty competitive, I'm an agent company in San Francisco. We're in the top kind of 5 to 10 agent companies where top talent is probably circling as similar like us, Techagon, Cursor Recognition. Like there's that handful of companies. In my leadership style, I'm not going to rah them into joining a company if they don't want to.
Right.
Especially what we do. We build revenue agents. Like coding agents are a lot more relatable. Some other agents could be much more sexier. There has to be some deep desire, some hill climb that they're on that we can accelerate, and that has to come from them.
Yeah.
So we kind of follow this recruitment process where we give a ton of context and we say, is that person forcing their way in? Are they naturally coming in? If not, we kind of take a step back. The third thing is we look for founder energy, people who have been a founder, can be a founder, and 100% will be a founder. It's like, I would say by the nature of that, so our process, when we started the company, we thought it'd be 50% kind of seasoned talent and then 50% early career. Kind of organically, we're probably 70-30. Like I think our average age, like I am above 35, I'm 38.
Yeah.
Like, our average is like closer to 25.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So you buy
So it's like, I think just organically it was not a deliberate thing.
Yeah.
I think why did that happen is if you find the right people on the early career side, and which is not just A+, but they really want to work with better people, you end up building a culture where they become the talent flywheel.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are there.
Totally.
Second is you don't have to manage them. They're extremely sharp people. Yes, you have, there's like they're raw, but they're in some way like completely self-directed.
Yeah.
and they're all naturally have founder energy. You can drop ship them anywhere, they figure it out. On the flip side, very few experienced people are willing to break all their muscles
Yes.
and be willing to be a peer to a 21-year-old lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people who do that, they bring both their experience and their growth mindset.
And they're phenomenal and hold them close.
Most do not work out.
Yeah.
Again, like going back, like our cadence is, it's pretty hardcore. Like most agent company, we're operating on a weekly cadence, and it is a lot of hard work. So it's rare to find that.
The 996 spirit is alive and well, it sounds like, in the San Francisco AI native
I don't like kind of obviously talking about it or like marketing it. Like I think you have to work hard.
Yeah.
Like, but yes, I think the work hard now, there was this phase where it was like marketing.
Yeah.
But now it's mostly driven by just this crazy kind of transformation wave that we're all riding, which is kind of AI agents, or you may call it Anthropic now.
Yeah.
That you just have to be extremely, extremely agile.
So two things you mentioned, right? Like this kind of intensity in the work culture.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought you mentioned, which was really interesting, is no third party basically go to market vendors other than Rox. What do you see as the future for where SaaS goes? And I'll talk about this maybe in three types of choices. The first is if you looked at the number of SaaS applications used by the enterprise, it increases by an order of magnitude over a few years because it's so much easier to build a tool. People are going to procure these off-the-shelf tools. The second is it stays roughly the same, or the third is it decreases by an order of magnitude because people are just building something custom built using an agent harness like Claude Code today. Like, hey, I don't need to go ahead and buy Tableau. I can do the visualizations, instead of my current context. What's your view in terms of where, let's say, SaaS and software markets are going over a few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. Maybe I can add kind of comment on the micro and then kind of hopefully let us start from the macro. Just to frame, like in Rox, like I am my number one kind of principle in life is extreme ownership. So like we put in our own money to start Rox. So for us, like we're in the arena, we have full skin in the game. So kind of our response to that question is like not just kind of LinkedIn speak. It is like truly what do we think is a path for us to stay on the playing field, win, and hopefully like kind of dominate over time. So, and this is something I kind of think about a lot. My general view is generally SaaS in the public markets and even within kind of the buyers is getting re-rated. Just the value of SaaS is going through a re-rating cycle where is this tool valuable or not is something that everybody's thinking about. I think the way it shakes out in this year is there is going to be a class of SaaS products which will become commodity and easy to replace. Kind of things that come to mind are like quick dashboarding tools or point solutions. And then there's going to be a class of software systems, like less savvy software systems that should get better with this. And cybersecurity being one, obviously Datadog and observability being others. One could argue if CRM systems and these systems play their cards well, they have a lot of context.
Where do you put systems of record companies like CRMs in that? Like, do you think about them as, like, I used to have a system of record because I needed so many integrations, no one wanted to rebuild those. And so that's why Salesforce has a lot of staying power. Or the opposite of like each of these integrations become a lot easier to build. Like, if you thought about systems of records, let's call it Salesforce, what I do for my HRS and others, like where does that fit in this?
Yeah, I do think kind of what ends up happening is most of the application landscape in an enterprise, 60% of these applications will be internally built. There's going to be 20 to 40% of your core workflows where you need a reliable vendor or partner to really like manage, like that as core revenue systems, core finance systems, core support systems. And that's where the traditional incumbents or newcomers like us come in.
Yeah.
And within that, I think the game is a game of context. And none of those companies are going to be the intelligence provider. Most of the buyers will want to at least attempt to build the application layer or buy something that is doing the work. Like we obviously ultimately we sell the work. So the company that earns the right to be the partner in that journey has to be able to earn the right to manage and activate that context for that customer. So that is where, like, if I look at this CRM category, CRM is similar to ERP or HR, like Workday, SAP, Salesforce at a high level, they all seem very similar, right? They have big databases, all the data. Unlike others, what I learned with the CRM is the data is actually not there. So the consumption data, the billing data, the support tickets, the product feedback is actually not in the CRM.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the
There's an interesting delineation between system of record and source of truth, and they're actually
Exactly.
surprisingly not necessarily the same thing.
But that's not the case for that's not the case for SAP. That's not the case for Workday. You don't have people data in Snowflake. It's in Workday.
Yeah.
So, but if you're running Rubrik or you all are kind of reviewing your consumption data is in Snowflake or Databricks and Tableau.
So that's what you think will be the defining characteristic
100%.
for where durable value lies versus.
And that's what I saw by just being inside kind of one public company.
Yeah.
And that we're seeing that across every vertical. Obviously, that's what's pulling us into the world's largest businesses is enterprise customers, yes, will go out and build a lot of stuff internally. Definitely horizontal systems like search and maybe like dashboarding and stuff. There's going to be core business systems which will be agentic. And being agentic is by nature, you have to do the work. You have to price the work, value the work. And the winning kind of vendors in that space will be companies that activate context well.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where the market's playing out. So ServiceNow in the ITSM space, Salesforce in the CRM space, all these spaces have a dominant newcomer.
Yeah.
That is kind of getting market traction because these businesses are looking for outcomes and they're able to get there faster.
In the agent space, what are agent swarms, by the way? Like, I remember in the early days for Rox especially, I saw a lot about agent swarms being posted. What is that?
It's now become a pretty, like, the alpha's gone away in messaging because now everybody, Cursor has it. This core idea that you need to orchestrate teams or large numbers of agents to go do complex work. So, for example, if you have to go close a find and engage with a customer, that actually needs you to orchestrate between a prospecting agent to go find the people, an email agent to write it, a slide deck to build a slide deck, a CRM agent to go to the CRM. You need to orchestrate many agents. For us, kind of going back to your original question about kind of guardrails and hallucination, one architectural choice we made very early is when we were decomposing the agents, we pin one Rox agent per account relationship.
Per account relationship.
Yeah, so if you have a customer with say 10,000 customers, you get 10,000 Rox agents. Each Rox agent has all these sub agents built out. Once we did that, that agent knows everything about Rubrik, you, and let's just say customer X.
That was one of the highest level context decisions you made.
Exactly, and that basically snapped. It won't talk about customer Y. It'll always talk about customer X. And so when we kind of came with that architecture, we had to very early.
For anyone in sales, is going to sound obvious, right? Like you want one rep per like logo or something like that.
Exactly. It's like you're getting a team of McKinsey analysts where it's one analyst per kind of account. They used to be like analysts. Now they're like PhD level like partners, I guess. So we had to basically build a system that can orchestrate all these agents working together. I came from Kubernetes, so we kind of knew how to do these. Now, if you look at any agent system, whether it's support or coding, these are mostly agent orchestration systems where if in coding, the docs agents kind of reaching out to the PR agent, and that's where the concept agent swarm came in. And I think some of our customers now have millions. Like we have a large kind of payroll customer with 1 million.
It's amazing. Sean, we'll ask you just a couple last questions, then we'll wrap. One of them is just advice to future founders. And specifically, I want to, we talked a little bit about how to think about hiring top talent. The second thing that I feel is really hard for, future founders is how do you think about your first few customers? Both in how do you attract them to come in, but then also what should you qualify on? Because I think in AI, it's actually very easy to get customers that want to poke around the edges and, maybe tire kick. But how did you think about what the right profile for the first few customers for Rox would look like and how you would even go out and get them to trust this startup that started 2 months ago? It's almost like laughable, right? But how did that actually work?
Yeah, it's funny you brought up the pain thing. Like, I think I'm probably making more mistakes here than ever before because everything is changing. I think the one thing that is working is go find the person who actually owns the metric that will change the company if AI worked. That's been like the biggest North Star.
I like that.
And if it's not that person, kind of you are in for a trap, basically. Why is that? This is underlying is a transform or die economy. And then people like as founders, we can speak it that way because we take existential like ownership and risk, but truly every business in the world has to transform or they may not die, but they might fall behind to the winner that does. And in these businesses, there is going to be a handful of people who get it. Usually somebody in the board, the CFO, the CEO, but good companies you'll have find people deep in the hierarchy who know it. In okay companies, but you have to find that person.
Yeah.
because everybody else is going to use AI for AI's sake. Get a demo, Cloud Code's great, but they're not really putting their neck on the line to go change the company. So so find that person and then get the metric, because ultimately you will make money by moving that metric.
The transformer dichotomy is a phenomenal phase. And I'm going to ask my final question, which I always ask, which is, tell me about a non-consensus view you have on AI. Maybe over like either how it is currently or over the next 12 months, but something you believe around AI that you think isn't widely held as an opinion.
Great question. Does it have to be about AI, or is it like building an AI?
Building an AI is also okay. The answer needs to use the word AI at least twice, but otherwise you're good.
I think the non-consensus view, building an AI, especially trying to build like high stakes kind of outlier company, like tier 1 venture backed company like Rubrik is, or what, obviously a public company. I think 99% of the people in the broader ecosystem, call it founders, talent, customers, investors for sure, have no fucking clue. I think I have never seen this many people know what's going on, and in reality they don't know.
How can you spot the person who knows what's going on?
It's because like I have to train myself like I know nothing. Like you have to go into every morning to basically like kind of grow, like break all the muscles. Like let's first think about it, because in historically in Silicon Valley in general there was the assumed trust and integrity and models that people worked on. All of that has diluted, I would have to say. Like in my kind of year and a half, and that's only getting, I would say, worse or more accumulated. Like it ranges for everything from acquiring talent. I think most talent looking to join an AI company, they don't have conviction on what they want in life. They want to be part of the AI game. Most customers, to that point, if you're going to sell to them, 99% don't really know why they're buying something to go transform. There's 1%. Same with investors. Like most investors will be fine if they find their way into Anthropic. Like why would you even consider a seed deal? Like I think what it is it contrarian? I think a lot of people feel it. They don't talk about it loudly. I think right now the percentage of people in that camp is a lot more than you might think. It's extreme. And the way I've made a lot of mistakes is like from talent, like not really assuming how hard I have to test for conviction. With customers, are they really the right customer? With kind of investors, are they really going to be missionaries who are going to help you build this company over time? My existing customers are amazing, obviously. But I think it's just we're in a gold rush, obviously. It's a frenzy. But in this gold rush, the perceived kind of and the actual value is just so concentrated that it is really hard to build conviction in general. And I think even the best founders that I kind of seek mentorship, they have to really force them to build conviction. And for me, like I have to kind of keep reminding me of my conviction. But the general market, I think there's much lower conviction than you might think. And low conviction leads to low integrity and stuff.
I love that. Bipul, one of the co-founders, CEO for Rubrik, opened up SKO with the quote, "Nobody knows anything." And he's just like, we need to acknowledge the world is changing. And the reality is, if someone makes a strong statement, 99% right, they're wrong. Ishan, this is a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for joining. I think, honestly, for me, it's been excellent to learn from somebody who's been a few steps ahead and kind of in the founder game, both in terms of like how you've built and kind of the intensity in which you've operated. So I've loved kind of having you on and being able to go talk through Rox, building revenue agents, which feels like definitely not the more trivial thing to go after right now. And I cannot wait to see like everything that's happening with the company going forward. Everything I've seen so far has been phenomenal, and wish you all the luck. And thank you so much to everyone who's kind of tuned into this episode of Dev in the Details. And I hope you enjoyed the show and will join us for the next one.